A very good evening and welcome to Ndeje University Television, live at Kataha Museveni hosted National Prayer Breakfast last Saturday. Uganda is now standing and marching forward, says His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, as he wants the opposing value addition efforts. Fast track the East African community integration, President Ruto tasks Museveni. And in sports, Ndeje Sharks defeated. Arua Hill proved too good for KCCA FC in their opening game of the Uganda Premier League at Barifa Stadium in Arua. My name is Mukundi Pierrine with the news in details. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and First Lady Janet Kataha Museveni last Saturday hosted the 24th National Prayer Breakfast. The annual event placed on the eve of Uganda's independence celebration is aimed at praying for the country, families, and economy, as well as thanking God for the protection and providence to Uganda. It's how it Maya detailed.
In his remarks, President Museveni congratulated members of the August House for being persistent with the event that he said dates way back in 1990s when he was first invited to the United States of America to attend similar prayers. The president commended the guest speakers for pointing out the realities in life that he referred to the biblical parable of the talents that should be utilized to the maximum.
On the issue of whether Christians should okakarukana nebyensi should participate in our struggles here on earth, my emphasis was on the parable of the talents, because a master gave his people talents. Some used them and others did not. And he praised the ones who had multiplied the talents. So I said, why don't you look at that? Talents, if they are not used, you are letting down what God told you to do. Then, for me, I always, even yesterday, we were opening a factory somewhere, and I was telling these people what God said from the very beginning in the book of Genesis, the fundamental mandate of the human being: multiply and fill the earth, which the Africans do very well. That one, there's no debate. But then also establish dominion over nature. This is the book of Genesis.
Commenting on the keynote address delivered by Professor Christian Altin on respecting heritage, President Museveni said some practices that were considered taboo in African societies were a diversion from nature, like homosexuality. The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Anne, in her speech read for her by her deputy, Honorable Thomas, thanked the congregation for turning up for prayers, noting that the family and nation prays together is united. The keynote address speaker, Professor Christian Altin from Austria, congratulated President Museveni for standing strong on the world stage. He also emphasized the need to instill virtues of education and leadership to the youth.
I consider this a form of ideological colonization. End of the quote of Pope Francis. He calls this the new colonialism. I humbly suggest to all of you, my African friends, my Ugandan friends especially, show moral leadership by staying true to your unique identity and principles. Arise, Uganda! To my European and North American friends, I appeal, as you preach tolerance in the West and beyond, please also be respectful of the life, family, and social values of our African brothers and sisters. Let us not impose, but encounter. as I have had the great privilege to be doing in the 15 years of working with legislators, and many of them African legislators.
The guest speaker, Bishop J.B. Masinde, urged Christians in Uganda to forget the past and also use it for shaping and focusing on the future. He called on the government to invest in the youth, saying they have the potential to transform the country.
And our history with slave trade, slavery, and colonization. These things, if you are not careful, they can easily become a burden that keeps on pulling us backwards, and then the wars and the fights and the internal conflicts that we have had, the famines we have had, the pandemics that we have gone through, the calamities we have gone through, the pictures that have been shown sometimes in the media in the West of African children with the 5 flies on their faces and stuff like that. We must come to a place where we declare those times are over. We need to arise, let them go, and start moving forward to the glory of God. We cannot do that unless we set these things aside. When I say forget, I'm not saying you are going to erase them from your memory. I'm only saying you set them aside. Don't allow them to continue being a burden to you, pulling you down, drawing you back. You cannot do that. Though Nehemiah started from a very, very humble beginning, he had to let it go and talk to the king of his day and say, this is what I'm hearing about my city, about my nation, about my country, about my people. And I want us to arise. Allow me to go back so that I can mobilize them, so that we can arise and we can build our city and our city of Jerusalem one more time.
In her closing prayer, the First Lady thanked God for guiding, protecting, and providing for the people of Uganda as they celebrate the 6th independence anniversary. In attendance also were the Vice President, Her Excellency Jessica Alupo, members of Parliament, among others. Harriet Temaya, live at 8.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, during the independence celebrations, said Uganda is on the right path to development despite numerous problems it has faced during the past 60 years he described as having been eventful. We are going to have Sarah Chiraba with a report.
While officiating at celebrations to mark Uganda's 60 years of independence at Koro Independence Ground, themed a declaration of African interdependence and our shared destiny, the Fountain of Honor, who was accompanied by the First Lady and the Minister of Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Kataha Museveni, said, Uganda's advantage amidst the challenges has been its upright and well-crystallized thinking on the philosophical, ideological, and strategic issues since the time it defeated Idi Amin in 1979.
The external parasite groups are always interested in perpetuating that hemorrhage of resources and development energies from Africa to other places. What is most infuriating, however, are the comprador bourgeoisie, agents of foreign interests in Africa, who do 2 things. First of all, they oppose our value addition efforts so as to frustrate our industrialization efforts. Secondly, they are always importing everything from outside, including trivialities like dead people's hair. It is these processes that have stunted Africa's growth. It is a scandal if there were people to recognize real scandals. You hear people talking of scandals, but they are talking about small scandals. This is a mega centuries-old scandal, which I don't hear anybody talking about, many people talking about. The global value for trade in coffee is US$ 460 billion. The coffee-growing countries of the whole world get only $25 billion US. And wonderful Africa gets only $2.5 billion from a figure of $460 billion. And much of this $2.5 billion, which is coming to Africa because of coffee, is now going to Uganda because Uganda is taking $800 million of that. Although we are producing a lot of coffee, 8 million bags, but you hear we are still getting only $800 million out of the $2.5 billion that Africa shares from a figure of $460 billion. So you are getting very little money from coffee.
President noted that from the onset, they evolved a strategy of 10 points program in order to use their understanding of philosophy ideology to create prosperity for the people, of which point number 5 focused on the building an independent, integrated and self-sustaining national economy. By the time, according to His Excellency the President, they had already discovered that one of Africa's problems had been the curse of confining itself to the export of raw material, getting less than 10% of the actual value of the end product, and the resultant loss of jobs to the cleverer-led outsiders. The President highlighted to over 800 guests at Koro Independence Ground some of the products that would make Uganda and Africa rich but have rather remained a curse to development because the political class in Uganda and Africa seem not to see the value in them. Top on the list was coffee, which he said, despite the fact that much of it comes from Africa, the continent only gets $2.5 billion against the global value of $460 billion. Uganda only shares $800 million. The ceremony attracted at least 4 heads of state and delegations from sister countries of East Africa and beyond. Speaker after speaker, the visiting leaders hailed His Excellency President Museveni for championing peace and stability not only in Uganda but also in East Africa and Africa at large. At least 800 people physically attended the ceremony at Kololo, who sat in accordance with the standard operating procedure of COVID-19. In attendance were the Vice President of Uganda, Jessica Alupo, His Lordship, the Chief Justice of Uganda, Alfonso Winyidolo, the First National Chairman of NRM Party, Moses Chigongo, Cabinet Ministers led by the Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja, the Secretary General of NRM, Richard Todong, NRM historicals, former ministers, service chiefs, and religious leaders. The ceremony was characterized by fanfare, including the parade march passed in slow and quick times, mounted by the officers of the Uganda People's Defense Force, Uganda Police Force, Uganda Prison Service, and Uganda Wildlife Authority. The gathering at Kolo also witnessed a military fly past and an acrobatic drop down of the UPDF commanders. Sarah Chirabo, live at
The President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, assured the people of Uganda of his commitment to integrate the region and tasked Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to use his position to fast-track the integration. Let's listen in to his speech.
Other than myself, is the one who comes. Is my young brother, just a bit smaller than me.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the great country of Uganda, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, First Lady Mama Janet Museveni, leaders present, distinguished Ugandans, and the great people of East Africa, good afternoon. First, I bring you greetings from your brothers and sisters in Kenya, both Kenyans and Ugandans and East Africans. They have sent me with greetings on this very important day while you celebrate 60 years of your independence. Congratulations, Your Excellency, Mr. President, congratulations, the great people of Uganda. And accompanying those greetings is our commitment to our region. Mzee Museveni, as I said, is our elder, We have tremendous respect for him, and we look up to him to now work so that we can eliminate the borders that separate our people in East Africa and in Africa. It is very clear to us that we cannot share poverty and we cannot share hunger, but we can share opportunity and we can share prosperity. It is our place as leaders and as citizens of the East Africa region for us to work together so that we can transform our borders, which today stand out as barriers, and convert them to bridges so that goods, services, and people can move across this East Africa without any impediments. Your Excellency, as our elder, President Museveni, you have the challenge to lead the charge on ensuring that we bring down the boundaries and the borders and the barriers so that we can have a borderless East Africa community. We are looking in our lifetime, in the next few years, that people, goods, and services can move across this East Africa as we lead the way in ensuring that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area becomes a reality. Your Excellency, I did instruct the Minister for Trade in Kenya to work with the Minister of Trade in Uganda so that together we can formulate and sign into the guided trade agreement that will facilitate the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to begin to become a reality, and so that we can harness the opportunities for investment, for trade, and for people to work together in our region. Finally, I have a word for our business people. The business people in our region are lagging behind the policymakers. I want to ask our entrepreneurs, our business people, the investor community in our region to take advantage of the infrastructure provided by the EAC and the ACFTA to transform our region. There is absolutely no reason why food cannot be available in our region. If there is food in Uganda, it should find its way to Kenya. If there is opportunity in Kenya, Ugandans should be able to access that opportunity. I am looking forward, Your Excellency, Mr. President, to you leading us in this region so that we can truly build prosperity and harness opportunity in our region for the mutual benefit of the 300 million people in EAC and the 1.2 billion people in the African continent. Your Excellency, to our business community, today we import 1.2 million tons of fertilizer into East Africa community, while we have the raw material for us to manufacture that fertilizer and save ourselves foreign exchange and create opportunity for jobs while we manufacture fertilizer for our own use in this region. We spend $500 million every year to import clinker for our cement manufacture, for our construction. That too, we have the raw materials in Kenya, in Tanzania, and in Uganda to produce clinker, and we can save $500 million from and wealth being exported from our region. Let me also say that we spend another $500 million every year to import steel for construction into our region. We have the raw materials in Uganda, we have gas in Uganda, we have the opportunity in Kenya, we have the raw materials in our region. Our business people should harness those opportunities, leverage on the friendship that we have as East Africans, and save us the foreign exchange and create jobs for the millions of young people in our region so that we can create wealth, we can share opportunity, and we can share prosperity. Your Excellency, with age and with experience comes responsibility. You have the age, you have the experience. Take the responsibility and lead the charge. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much, and may the good Lord bless you.
And in sports, Ndeje Sharks played Serie A champion Sports in Volleyball Club on Saturday at Old Kampala Sports Arena.
On Saturday, the 8th of October 2022, at the Old Kampala Sports Arena, Ndeje University's volleyball team, the Ndeje Sharks, were beaten by 3-0 against the Sports S Volleyball Club at the Old Kampala Sports Arena during the evening hours. Captained by Mugenyi Ronald, the Ndeje Sharks were dominated through the game against a strong team who are the current champions of the Serie A National Volleyball League. The Ndeje Sharks, who have won their first 2 games and lost another 2, have been training hard to better on their future performances. One of their players, Kevin Atusimwe, believes that with time the Sharks will be more consistent and will become stronger ahead of the East Africa University Games that Ndeje University will host from the 16th to the 21st of December this year. The head coach, Sadat Waguma, believes the team is putting up a good fight and will improve from the errors they made over the weekend as they look forward to continuing to improve and win at the East Africa University Games later this year. For the Sports S Volleyball Club, they are blessed to have over 6 players who play in the national team, hence having that advantage over the Ndeje Sharks last Saturday. Ndeje Sharks now looks forward to playing their next opponent, Nkumba University, this weekend at the Old Kampala Sports Arena. Marshall Miro, live at 8.
Goals from Isaac Ogwang, Rashid Toha, and Rashid Kawawa were enough to usher Arua Hill into the new season. KCCA FC pulled a goal back when Wright Vuni headed into his own net, but it was just a consolation as they couldn't force a comeback and hence succumbing to their first league defeat. Here are the details.
Coach Molly, the Ekwaso's side, remain on 3 points, having beaten Wakiso Giants 3-2 in their opener at Lugogo. Arua Hill dominated the opening exchanges and played with a lot of intent. Arua Hill FC had their first chance on goal, converted in by Isaac Ogwang in the 13th minute as he headed in a well-taken free kick from Rashid Toha.
Number 1, therefore, the Congolo side from the good delivery, and the former SC Villa player scores on his debut.
KCCFC had their first chance on goal fall to Ashraf Mugume, but his shot from close range went wide in the 22nd minute. Kasasiro boys were forced to defend from deep for the rest of the first half as Arua Hill edged the first half by 1-0. With just 2 minutes into restart, KCCA made another defensive mistake and were punished by Rashid Toha, who headed in when left unmarked in the box to double the host's lead.
Cross comes in, Toha Rashid! And again, number 2 here for the home side.
Arua Hill FC continued dominating a disorganized KCCA FC side and forced them into more mistakes in their backline, which saw Samuel Sekamate and Rashid Kawawa miss a couple of chances. Kawawa's aggressiveness to score was later rewarded when he forced defender John Retiva into committing a mistake as he gifted him the ball to score the third goal for Arua Hill in the 59th minute. The Kasasiro boys tried to pile more pressure, and in the closing minutes they forced Bright Vunu to score an own goal. It was a deserved victory for Arua Hill and revenge best served against a KCCA side that beat them 1-0 at the same venue. KCCA FC will return to action on Saturday as they face Vipers SC at MTN Omondi Stadium in Lugogo, whereas Arua Hill will be at home as they take on Maroons. Mashomiro live at 8.
Maduka, mischance from Revita Kawawa. Nets number 3 here for the home side.
Thank you so much. That was live at 8 at Ndeje University Television. We are reminding you that you can still follow us on our different social media platforms as Facebook and YouTube. And with that, have a very good evening.
This October. Omulabi wa Ndeje University TV niyo programu obulamu zaabu.